Welcome back to the Pig Trail Show. Hayden Herrera here, and it is time for your Hog Hoops Report. So, who else will we bring on than Kevin McPherson? Kevin, always good to talk to you on a Sunday. And finally, we've got the exhibitions out of the way. We're finally going to get some regular season college basketball this weekend, or this week, I should say. Arkansas is going to take on Southern. Arkansas played 2 exhibition games before Monday's season opener, and you were in the building for that game against Memphis. A little bit of a rocky start, but Arkansas ending up with the victory. What were your biggest impressions from that game?
Yeah, the slow start. I mean, you've got all the retention. You got veterans out of the portal to, really bolster that front line, and you got 2 really quality freshman guards that are in your top 8 rotation. So I was a little surprised, even for an exhibition game, that Arkansas was a little bit sleepwalky. Kind of waiting for something to happen instead of making something happen for those first few minutes. And Memphis obliged Arkansas. Yeah, the Tigers will make something happen. Even though it was a road test, which is good, I think in exhibition season, and we've seen more and more of that in recent years, because it was Memphis and, basically on the border there, it was about half and half the fan bases, half Arkansas in the building at the FedEx Forum where the Memphis Grizzlies at the NBA play. And then you had Memphis with about half. So you didn't hear a lot of boos for the road team. You heard a lot of cheers when Arkansas did well from its fans and cheering from the Memphis part when Memphis did something. So even though it was a road game, it wasn't that hostile environment. Everybody's out to get us. And you still wonder why Arkansas kind of showed up a little lackadaisical. But let's not focus on that, because Arkansas got back in that game in the first half, actually took a brief lead, then was down 3 at halftime. First minute of the second half, a couple of threes for Memphis, lead back to 9 for the Tigers. You're thinking, oh, is this one of those nights where Arkansas just can't, dot its I's and cross its T's enough? Arkansas outscored Memphis 57-24 in the last 19 minutes, plus 33 points. You nearly tripled them up on the scoreboard to win by 24, and everybody got in on the act. But I keep saying, Double H, that Arkansas's got 8 players that are starter value. And it was Malik Thomas. It was Billy Richmond III. It was Malik Ewan. Those were your 3 out of the 8 that didn't start the game. Now, they started the second half, but they were the ones in the first half that really kind of picked Arkansas up and got them back in it when they checked into the game. And so these are the luxuries of having a roster with that kind of retention, with that kind of talent, the way Calipari recruits, that if 2 or 3 or even most of your starting 5 are kind of stuck in the mud for a while, you got to help. There's no drop-off when you go to the bench. So this is one of the qualities leaving exhibition season, going into the start of the regular season. I don't expect Southern, out of the SWAC, the defending SWAC champs, by the way, to put up much of a fight. I'm sure we'll talk more about that matchup. But Arkansas is going to have some real serious business at the end of the first week. And I think in a lot of ways that Memphis game helped Arkansas deal with some adversity, figure out how they got to bring it for 40 minutes. And then there's still some areas where they need to get better. If you look at both exhibition games, Hayden, Arkansas didn't shoot well at the free throw line. Each team, Cincinnati and Memphis, had double digits in offensive rebounds. I think Arkansas still could clean up the turnover bug a little bit, even though it's not been just awful. It's bad enough at times where you want to see maybe some cleanup on aisle 3 in that taking care of the basketball category.
Well, I was going to ask you, out of not just the Memphis game, but from both exhibition games, your biggest takeaways. I have a feeling it's probably that depth you mentioned. So I want to ask you this: in a perfect world, you mentioned 8, but in a perfect world, maybe if Isaiah Seeley comes along, could that number expand to 9 maybe later in the season?
Yeah, he is the 9th guy. How much he plays will be determined, but I think they're great with the 8 as long as they stay healthy. And Isaiah getting opportunities, he'll help them. He's going to help them somewhere. But you look at the 2 true freshmen led Arkansas in scoring in the exhibition season, Hayden. Speaking of, Seeley being that 3rd freshman and giving you 1/3 of your lineup if you go 9 deep. But how about the 2 near the top? Malik Thomas led this team in every category, basically. Yeah. At 20.5 points, 7 rebounds, led him in both games. So he led them in the exhibition season in rebounding, let alone the 20.5 points. 3.5 assists per game in the exhibition season. 2.5 steals led the team. Then Darius Acuff Jr., your lead guard, 17 points per game. He was second in scoring in each game, had the same amount in each game, but he leads you in assists. And look at the assist to turnover ratio on exhibition play, 5.5 assists per game to only 1 turnover. That is elite. I don't care what level of basketball it is, or if you're a veteran or not. And again, we pump the brakes. Exhibition season, we've been fooled before
Yeah.
by heady performances by these Razorbacks once coming out of exhibition. I don't think so this time around. I think this team is really good, and I think the freshmen playing this well early is maybe forecasting just how good this team can be consistently. Now we'll see. Again, things are going to get hairy in week 1, not necessarily tomorrow, but and I know you're going to probably have a point in this show where we get to what's upcoming. But stepping out now of exhibition season, in addition to those 2 exhibition games, you had the 40 minutes of scrimmaging and the tip-off scrimmage down in Hot Springs. Before that, Arkansas had a pro day and did a lot of 4-on-4, 5-on-5 for NBA scouts. And
Yeah.
before that, they had the prime time at the Palace, which was basically an introduction to the team. Wasn't very competitive, but you had 5 different events in October. Now everything gets real.
Absolutely. And we kind of mentioned it last week in the Hog Hoops Report, saying, maybe the Arkansas comes into it with a mindset of, hey, maybe it's just an exhibition, but we need to lock in. Maybe they forgot about that locking in part, that those first few minutes in Memphis. But I don't want to say we called it, but I think we called it when they were locked in. They found a way. If you haven't seen those freshmen, Acuff and Thomas, play yet, well, you'll get plenty of chances this season, starting with tomorrow night. You mentioned it. The Jaguars of Southern coming in against the Razorbacks. If it was a matchup against, an actual Jaguar against an actual Razorback, I'd have to give the advantage to the Jaguar. But let's talk about who's going to be on the floor. Well, have you looked into these Jaguars much, and what is Southern going to bring to Bud Walton Arena tomorrow?
Well, they've got their own share of good retention. They play in the SWAC. They won that league last year with a 15-3 records in the league. So outright, a 21-win team overall, 21 season for Southern. So Arkansas, they're projected again to finish at the top. They've got 6 of their guys back. Hayden, Double H, it's 6 returning players. Arkansas has 4. So actually, in numbers, a greater amount of your retention there. Only 1 player in double-digit scoring last year. He's back. Michael Jacobs, 6'2" guard, senior out of Atlanta, just over 11 points per game last year, 2.5 assists, 2.5 rebounds. And then they got 5 of their guys, mostly backcourt players, some on, a forward, I think. So total of 6 coming back. They've got new pieces, obviously. I mentioned what they did last year. I just don't see this as equitable talent. Even though there is good retention there, only takes you so far when you're matching up against a monster. And that's what Arkansas is. Let's face it. You can have an off night. You can have a bad night. Anybody can rise up in college basketball and upset you, even on your home court, if you lay a complete egg. I think if Arkansas sleepwalks again, they win by 10 or 12 points. If they're playing middle of the road, their best game, it's closer to 15 or 20. And if they're on their A game, the scoreboard might get really ugly. We'll see. I mean, Southern's going to come in and they don't look at it just as a buy game and get a big check. They're looking at it as a chance to knock off Goliath. But all things equal in terms of effort, this team, Arkansas team's, at least 20 to 25 points better than Southern on its best night if Arkansas is playing its A game. And I think we're looking again at the things that you didn't do in exhibition season that you'd like to see Arkansas be better. They're a more physical team. Yep. They've got plenty of size, length, and athleticism, all that stuff. But, how are you letting teams get double digits offensive rebounds, consistently? You want to get better there. You shot in the 60s in free throw percentage in both of those exhibition games. You got to get better there. Those are the kinds of things against really good teams when you're down inside that under 4-minute timeout. It's 1 or 2 possession game. You've got a lead. That team might have to start fouling you to stop the clock, extend the game. You got to knock down free throws, protect your lead. Or whether it's you're up or down, you got to knock them down to close it out with a win. Those kinds of things. But, I mean, Southern Arkansas's 3-0 all time against this team, Double H. Last time they played was 5 years ago. It was an Elite Eight season for Arkansas coming out of the COVID shutdown. You had a smaller non-conference slate of games, I think only 9 instead of 13, and Arkansas just blasted Southern. And then Southern team last year, I mentioned retention, averaged about 75 points a game, 43% shooting from the field, 32% from three, 66 point something from the free throw line. Nothing that pops out at you going, oh, that could be a problem. And again, different season, they brought in some help, but Arkansas should have its way on Monday night as not much of a real tune up other than just getting that first game out of the way for what's coming next.
Arkansas against Southern tomorrow night, 6 p.m. on SEC Network. And of course, Pig Trail Nation will have all of your coverage. We mentioned that game, but there's another game coming up in a few days that will also be piquing interest not only in Arkansas, but nationally. And when we return, we'll talk about that and some other topics on the Hog Hoops Report with Kevin McPherson. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Hog Hoops Report. Hayden Herrera alongside Kevin McPherson. Kevin, we talked about Monday's season opener for Arkansas taking on Southern. That'll be an interesting game to watch. But in a few days later, on November 8th, Saturday, Arkansas football is on a bye week, but Arkansas basketball, they are getting the primetime treatment. They are going to be playing up in East Lansing, Michigan, taking on Michigan State on Fox at 6 p.m. Kevin, we saw this last season in the NCAA tournament with John Calipari facing, somebody like a Rick Pitino or a Bill Self, and now on Sunday he'll be facing Tom Izzo. It's really interesting to see when you have not just one but two legendary coaches on the floor battling it out against one another.
Yeah, you wonder, is the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame folks, are they setting up these matchups, working with the NCAA? Because you've got two heavyweights, Tom Izzo, Calipari, each of them have won a title, multiple Final Fours for each, and the standards, and it continues. I mean, Arkansas Sweet 16 team last year. How about Michigan State last year? An Elite Eight run, won the Big Ten championship. That's one of the heavyweight leagues out there. So, we know it's not only a high major conference, but it's one of the best. And so this is a team that is a ranked team. Arkansas is a ranked team. So you've got your first ranked versus ranked matchup. You mentioned the Hall of Fame aspect with those coaches. But again, you're talking about Arkansas this year playing all the 8 teams that made last year's Elite Eight. Well, this is the first of the bunch, and it's a true road game. This will be carried, national television, as you said, on another network, as the kids like to say. And look, I think this is a big test for Arkansas, as good as the Razorbacks are. I don't go into that game assuming anything. What I do know is Arkansas can't start like it did against Memphis. Arkansas is going to be 1-0. They're going to have that win under their belt to open the season against Southern. I just don't think this team can afford, and against a quality opponent like that away from home, and what will be a hostile environment. It won't be half and half Hog fans, like we saw with Memphis. And so there's a better team. Let's face it, it's hard to win there, and it's hard to beat that team anywhere. But you're playing on their home court. So this is one of those games where Arkansas so far has been running at will, playing to its strengths for the most part, getting in the paint, getting those paint touches on drives. Yeah, they'll get some threes up, but they're really trying to attack the basket, get out in transition, get to the free throw line if they don't finish. It's even harder to get those whistles on the road, and it's harder sometimes to dictate tempo. But again, I go back to the mindset of these freshmen. We'll see, does it show up again when the bullets are real and it's an even better opponent? But with all the retention and the frontline veteran guys that Arkansas brought in, they should be able to get down to business once that ball goes up. Not that they're going to be perfect throughout, but if Arkansas is locked in from the beginning, they're going to have a chance to beat anybody, including in a road game, to their first one of the season, early in the season at Michigan State.
Yeah, like you mentioned, a true road game. That student section will be pumped. Those Michigan State fans, their football season isn't going well either. So they are always locked in on basketball. So as you mentioned, the freshmen, it'll be their first kind of real test to see what that atmosphere will be like for them. Can't wait to see that. Just glad in general that college basketball is back. But before we let you go, Kevin, I know obviously you're on the beat. We talked a little Baba Oladotten last week, but what are some names you've been keeping an eye on in the past week for us on the recruiting trail?
Well, several. It didn't look like Aladat in the 6'10" combo forward, top 10 rated 5-star. Previously, the number one player in the country in the 2027 class. He reclassed in the summer, took that official visit to Arkansas a couple of weeks ago. From what I could gather, he did not take any visits this past weekend. Now, his dad has told me he'll maybe take 2 or 3 more. He mentioned one of those. I can't name I told him I wouldn't, but it's another SEC program, and it doesn't look like Aladat made a trip this past weekend there. Maybe it's one upcoming. His dad's also said not sure if he's going to get it done early or wait till the spring, but the early signing period is November 12th to the 19th. It's 1 week. It's November 2nd today. My simple math says in 10 more days, Wednesday, November the 12th, the early period is when it begins, and then it's just a week long. And so Aladat, and if he takes 2 or 3 more visits, that's going to be pushing, that deadline if he's going to do it early. And I think Arkansas would like to get it, be the winner. Obviously, they've prioritized him. I think Arkansas is the leader until I hear otherwise. Already taking visits to Footprint homes. He's out of Blake High School in Silver Springs, Maryland, in that DMV area, DC, Baltimore, Maryland, and then Virginia, Fairfax, in that DC area. But he's already visited Virginia Tech, not too far away from home. That's where his dad played in the 90s. Visited Maryland, the Terrapins. He's visited Georgetown, again, right there in his backyard. He's been to Kentucky. He's already been. That was his first SEC visit prior to Arkansas. And then again, we'll see if he takes this other. I don't know what's going to shake out there with this other SEC program, other than he's likely to visit there. But there is a new development. Marcus Johnson, a 6'2" guard, top 30 rated by ESPN, the number 28 player in the country, a lead guard, a point guard, high-level 4-star out of Garland Heights in Cleveland, Ohio. He was committed to Ohio State, and he recently decommitted. A list of schools came out that have already contacted him, including Arkansas. And I did talk to Marcus, and he said that not only is he talking to Arkansas, but he'd like to visit and probably going to visit soon. And so that's something to keep an eye on. Again, Arkansas really focused on, you mentioned, so we've mentioned before, some of the top level 5-star guards that Arkansas has recruited and brought in on visits. Not really point guard, lead guard types, more like combo guards, twos, shooting guards, or they can combo and help you play on the ball. Guys like Jordan Smith Jr., who, by the way, is on an unofficial visit today. I think unofficial, it might be official, but I know he's on campus today at Syracuse. That's reporting that came out today. I saw that. Brandon McCoy Jr., Caleb Holt, all those, and Jordan Smith Jr., all combo guards that have previously visited Arkansas in recent weeks, that you may have to wait till the spring to find out about. Whereas Marcus Johnson, let's see if there is a visit there. There's other high majors in on him since he's decommitted from Ohio State, but that's one that you might be able to work in and get it done early. And let's not forget, Arkansas has already got the commitments from J.J. Andrews, 6'6" wing at a Little Rock Christian Academy, right here in the 501, top 10 rated 5-star wing, and another wing, Abdou Toure, is 6'5", super athlete, big time slasher, above the rim finisher, out of the state of Connecticut, top 30 rated 4-star. Both wings are lockdown defenders, really good defenders, playing at that 3 spot, Double H. And Arkansas is glad to have them, and they'll sign during this early period that we just referenced, with Arkansas trying to close the deal maybe on Aladat. And let's see what happens with this Marcus Johnson, if this visit actually happens, and what kind of fast track is that on. And then can you convince any of those 5-star, that trio of 5-star guards that I named, convince them to get it done early, not drag it out to the spring. Convince them to be a Razorback. Jordan Smith Jr., perception is Duke leads there. Caleb Holt, it's been multiple teams that have felt like it's been the lead, including Arkansas coming off his OV back in late August. Brandon McCoy Jr., I think Arkansas just might be in the lead there, but Michigan's, Alabama, I mean, when you're a top 5 rated 5-star guard, not just a 5-star, but ranked in the top 5 players in the country, as all 3 of those guys are, you can afford to wait to the spring. There's not a school that wants you, that's not going to leave you a spot open, regardless of what they might do in the portal.
Absolutely, yeah, they've got the leverage for sure. All right, so a lot to keep an eye on there. The Buckeyes loss could be the Hogs gain, plus some other. We'll stay up to date with all of those other names that you mentioned, and
Yeah.
you can keep up to date with everything Kevin's doing over on X at AR Hoops Scoop. Kevin, thanks as always for joining us. This has been the Hog Hoops Report. More Pig Trail coming up after the break.